The rider on the pale horse, they say, back in the days when the railroads were still young and the land was wild, there was a small mining camp in the high country, tucked between the pines and the bare, gray rocks. Men came there to dig silver from the earth, and most of them were rough, hard men who didn't believe in ghosts or gods, only in dynamite and gold dust. But there was one rule in that camp: no one rode out alone after sundown, especially not on the old stage road that wound down into the valley. The old hands said that on certain nights, when the moon was thin and the wind carried the smell of snow, a rider would come. He rode a horse the color of bone, with eyes like burning coals and hooves that made no sound on the frozen ground. The rider himself was tall and wrapped in a long, tattered coat, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. He never spoke, but he always stopped at the edge of the camp, just beyond the firelight, and waited. If a man had done wrong, if he'd cheated, or killed, or broken his word, the rider would point at him with a gloved hand, and that man would vanish before morning. No blood, no struggle, just an empty bunk and a cold bedroll. The miners said he was death himself, come to collect the wicked, and they left offerings at the edge of camp: a bottle of whiskey, a silver coin, sometimes a Bible left open on a stump. One winter, a stranger came to the camp, a quiet man with a sharp face and a colt on his hip. He called himself Silas and claimed he was a gambler, but the old cook said he smelled of gunpowder and sorrow. Silas stayed through the cold months, winning and losing at cards, never speaking much, never going near the edge of camp after dark. Then, one night, the wind howled like a lost soul, and the moon hung thin and red in the sky. The men were drinking by the fire when the dogs began to whine and slink away into the shadows. Outside the circle of light, the pale horse stood, and the rider pointed straight at Silas. Silas didn't run. He just stood up slowly, his hand resting on his gun. "I've been waiting for you," he said, his voice low and rough. "I know what I did. I know what I am." The rider didn't answer. He only turned his horse and began to ride down the old stage road, and Silas followed on foot, his boots crunching in the frost. The men watched until both rider and man were swallowed by the dark, and the wind carried a sound like distant hoofbeats, fading into the mountains. They never saw Silas again. But sometimes, on the coldest nights, when the moon is thin and the wind is sharp, the old hands still point to the ridge and whisper, "There he goes, the man who finally faced his reckoning, riding behind the pale horse into the dark."